Hello and welcome. I am super excited to have Sheila with us today. So welcome to the Ladies Lounge by the Limitless Ladies Network. We are a network of women that are limitless in sharing lessons to advocate and drive insightful, empathetic self-care. So before we even get started, I just want to note that this content is provided for general informational purposes only. It is not advice nor intended to be the substitute for professional medical advice. Do not use this information for diagnosing or treating any medical condition or health conditions. Those seeking treatment for any specific diseases and or ailments should consult with a qualified physician, and we make no representations, no warranties, nor assume any liability for the content herein. We are here to have a discussion with Sheila. So Sheila is a licensed clinical social worker, board certified holistic healthcare practitioner, and bioenergetic practitioner who specializes in homotoxicology. She offers holistic healthcare that incorporates homotoxicology into adults and children. So Sheila, I am super excited to have you here, just because I've known you for quite some time, but you have also been instrumental in helping me with the health ailments that I've had. So I have worked with you for, what's it been now, like over a year and a half?
Yeah.
So welcome.
Thank you. Welcome. Thank you. I'm thrilled to be here. A little nervous.
That's okay. It's all right. Discussion. I mean, really, it's all about us helping to inform women about, holistic well-being and alternatives, right? So tell us a little bit about your story.
Oh, golly, how I came to natural medicine, homotoxicology, bioenergetic medicine. I have to say, I started out just as your regular old psychotherapist, minded my own business, had two children, and noticed with my youngest that something just seemed off with him in terms of his communication, development, those kinds of things. So we started going down the medical route of figuring out really what was causing the delays. He was diagnosed just shortly before his second birthday with autism spectrum disorder. And that kind of blew my world apart. I had the good fortune of other moms, right? We're all in this together, moms that have special needs, have any kind of health issues. It just seems like we gravitate and ultimately end up, most of us, in this place where we're going to start helping others because of what we've gone through. And was told that, autism isn't what we think it is, that there could be something creating, causing, contributing to the symptoms. So for the first 2 years, I really focused on biomedical interventions with Aiden. And he responded, he did well, but there was just something missing. And his physician was comfortable enough in her own skin to say, I think you should try something different, and referred me to a practitioner in New York who specializes in homotoxicology. And from one discussion with her, Tammy, my world blew apart. It's like I found home, if that sounds...
It all makes sense, right?
Yeah, it just really fit, because ultimately homotoxicology is, human, right? Homo, and then toxicology is the study of toxins. So it's looking at the root cause of things. And I did that in my private practice doing psychotherapy. I'm always looking at the root cause, trying to figure out really what was going on in a person's behavior today, what led to that. So kind of just fit for me. And then I said, I want to study this. So I went back to school, traveled back and forth to Atlanta for about 3 years, taking my foundational courses, taking advanced practice courses, dental colleges, neurotransmitter training, all of that to really offer another subset of services to patients. I was always mindful that when a mom, or not necessarily a mom, but a woman came through my practice and said that she was depressed or anxious, I was always kind of wondering if there was some physical issue going on first, because I think it's really a disservice to anybody, but in this case, mostly women, who say that they're anxious and depressed when they really have a physiological issue going on. They could have thyroid issues, they could have gut problems. And so I kind of always had that mindset to begin with, and this just brought it to a higher level. So in 2007, I completed my training. And as I said, from that point forward, I went back and took advanced practice courses and have been offering it, since. And it is a passion of mine. I typically get the patient who says, I've been to the doctor, they've done all the labs, they can't find anything wrong with me, but I still feel awful. Can you help? And so that's kind of where I'm at today, is still getting those referrals, and I'm grateful for the work that I do. And it's so much fun to see people get well. Oh, it's the best.
Absolutely.
It's the best.
I mean, and I'm a patient, right? Essentially, right?
Well, I can't say if you are or you're not.
Right, right.
Yeah, no, you were. Yeah.
So no, like I went through that same process of, years of trying to figure out what the issue was. And then to have some answers was just like so enlightening, right? To be able to say, okay, I can pinpoint certain things that either I've been exposed to, or, things that have happened to you, and all of a sudden
It does.
just makes
It does.
sense.
And it was helpful for me to understand what led to my son's diagnosis. Ultimately, my own body was toxic, so I was the breeding ground. And then, through this work, he's just an amazing young man. He still has a compromised immune system, so I have to be very careful. And, there are times that issues pop up, but homotoxicology is what I credit to his wellness and to his advancement in life. And, many times I have people that have said, he has autism. And I'm like, kids recover. They do. I've seen it over and over and over. So here we are.
Awesome. So glad that he's doing better and that you're doing this for so many people.
Yeah.
So the other thing I wanted to ask was, or kind of talk a little bit about, is when you kind of meet with your patients, right? And people come to you and there's problems, you don't utilize normal labs or medicine where they just constantly want to draw some labs to get,
right,
something from your blood. So talk a little bit about, the actual bioenergetic specific, I guess.
Sure. So, I mentioned a couple minutes ago that homotoxicology is the study of toxins, toxicology. And I use our machine, which is an energetic machine, to do my testing. I certainly take all of the labs and sampling and whatever somebody has already been through. They can absolutely send it to me because it's good information for me to have. But bioenergetic medicine is really biology, and the energetic piece is physics, right? So physics predates chemistry, blood chemistry. So it's an opportunity for me to look inside the cell and see what's still resonating. And whatever is, excuse me, in that cell is what will come out through the testing. So it is a process by which I don't necessarily have to take anybody's samples or lab tests or any of that kind of stuff. I can do it all on my own. And I don't ask for a lot of information. Initially, your standard questions to be filled out, but I want to be able to give the information back. And then most often what I hear from people is, oh my gosh, how did you know that I had X, Y, and Z?
Right.
And it's a way to kind of confirm and show them that this is real. This has been around for, 70 plus years, haven't had to answer to, and there's efficacy behind it. So that's kind of the process initially.
Yeah, it was kind of amazing to actually see the level of detail in the reports that you sent. I was like blown away by all of the information. And then, you did a great job of explaining how, everything interacts with your body. And it was just so informative. I'd never seen anything so detailed before.
Wow. Oh, golly, you didn't share that before. Thank you.
Yeah, I was so impressed. I just couldn't believe the detail. It was great.
Yeah, and in fact, I've had many times people have said to me, well, I'll say, hey, your lymphatic system seems a little bit high. Are you coughing a little bit? Do you have any drip? Are you cold? They're like, no. And then 3 or 4 days later, they'll send me an email and they'll say, hey, I've got a cough. What can you do for me? Or, yeah, those cold symptoms. And it's because, and again, I mentioned that a minute ago, this is physics. So physics predates blood chemistry. And so I have a little bit of a leg up. Or through the testing, I'll say, your skin is off. This is what's going on. And they're like, oh my gosh, how would you have known that? And it's because of the accuracy from the testing. And then lastly, I can determine pretty closely how long the toxins have been in the body because I will specifically potentize, see what frequency things are resonating at, see how long it's been in the body. So that's the detail piece so that when it comes time and we can talk about the steps of the process itself, you'll know how long this has been and we'll know when it's over, when you're completed, because I have measured things initially.
Yeah, I mean, and it is nice to know from, kind of the patient side and the one that's dealing with the toxins that there is kind of an end game, right? There's actually a plan in place where it's not just take this take this pill for the rest of your life, or take this and we'll see what happens kind of thing, right? You
Right.
kind of you do see the progress, and I could see progress as I went through all of the different kind of phases of things, right? Which was great.
So with homotoxicology, the nice piece about this is it's always like there's stage one and there's stage six, right? And there are 4 or 5 stages in between. So there's, kind of the reaction phase and then it can get all the way to neoplasm, which is cancer. So my goal is to bring everything back so everything is excreting. So like a baby, when the baby eats, it eliminates shortly thereafter. And that's the same principle. I want things to come in because we're going to be exposed to toxins all the time and to be excreted fairly quickly. And so by measuring how deep the toxins are, you'll know right from the get-go how long you're going to be in this process. And you'll see, through the phases, as you mentioned, things will just kind of start to dissipate. People say right from the start, right from jump, that they start to feel better because I am supporting all of the bodies. We should probably go through the phases, right, to
Yeah.
explain a little bit about that. So after the testing is done, I send the results, a sign up link. We can do telehealth just like this. It's quite nice. Most people really enjoy that. They don't have to leave the comforts of their home. Um,
Yes.
and I go through the initial phase, which is foundational. I'll send specific remedies individualized for that person to take care of their lymphatic system, their adrenals, so that they have support and energy. It's critical to get well. They have gut support because the gut's a second brain. I know we're going to talk on that in just a minute. It is crucial. And then liver kidney support is really for detoxification. So right from the start, I'm supporting the whole body. And then probably a month into it is when we reconvene, we get back together and we say, okay, are you ready? Are you ready for the intracellular detoxification? And at that point, you will start taking what's called no-sode. So there are specific remedies with your toxins in them. They're not generic. It's not like you're taking a medication that could be prescribed to anybody. These are tailor-made, individualized to your toxins. And that's when the bulk of the work gets done. And then we test, every 8 to 10 weeks to see those measurements coming down on the potencies on the toxins. And then we kind of wrap up. It's really tough for me to say. People always ask. Sometimes it's 6 months, sometimes it's 9 months. Pediatrics are super easy. And I think if anything, to do children with homeopathy and with this type of medicine is just, it's so good for their bodies. It is, so that they don't have to be exposed to antibiotics. Because let me be clear, there may become a time and place for that. This is kind of bridging that gap. But if you can put those medications off for as long as possible so that the body, which has an innate ability to heal, can heal with the support of homeopathy, I think we're all on the same page with that.
Yep. Totally. So I know when I first started with you, one of the main things that you had mentioned as kind of a criteria, I guess, right? We were talking about brain gut connections, is that there are certain foods, right, that we should not be consuming. And I know that everyone has their own, bias, and you hear what's commercialized for things that are great, like dairy and other stuff, right?
Right.
So I do remember that initial conversation, and you saying, okay, well, there's 5 evil foods that you just should not be eating. And what were those foods?
Oh golly. Well, the biggest one for me that I've been called like the gluten police and all kinds of fun things. Gluten is my top. That's number one. Because it can be a lot to ask somebody to do the 5 off the top and eliminate. But gluten is a must. That is a non-negotiable for me. And then after that, so it's gluten, dairy, soy. You're going to have to help me out because I had corn. What am I missing?
Sugar. Yep.
Sugar. Thank you. And I understand that it can be, and I don't like to use the word hard because I reserve that for other folks that are really in that neoplastic stage. They get the hard from me. I'll give you that. Yes, dealing with cancer and that kind of stuff, that's hard. These are challenges. These are choices to really eliminate those foods. Gluten's a must. Dairy's tough. Dairy's tough too because, in all actuality, there's that joke out there that says the only animals that should be having dairy are cows, right?
It's true, right? They have 2 for reason, right?
Yeah.
I was just reading something that came across, I think it might have been from Luca Health, where they were saying that 75% of the population was actually like dairy intolerant.
Sure. I would agree. We don't have the enzymes in our body naturally occurring to handle certain enzymes like lactose. We don't.
And a crazy statistic that I learned too is, and I actually have it on the side here. So it said that the National Cancer Institute, so talking about cancer, right? National Cancer Institute, National Institute for Health, and the World Cancer Research Fund actually found that women who consume just 1 cup of milk actually increase their risk of breast cancer by 50% per day.
Oh my, I did not know that.
And shockingly, so it gets even worse. So if you are listening to like all these commercials that dairy is so good for you, and you end up consuming 2 to 3 cups of milk per day, your risks increase to 80% of getting breast cancer. Shocking, right?
And so then we have to ask, why would that be? So I think it's one thing for us to sit here and say, those are the 5 foods that you shouldn't really eat, but we then have to just explain a little bit more what's going on in our society today that these foods are so harmful. Sorry to say, I'm not going to get any pats on the back from the Dairy Council anytime soon, or, from wheat farmers. And I apologize if you're, everybody has choice in this matter. But we're genetically modifying things. We are, spraying for pesticides before the wheat crops are really developed and maturated right before. So we have to ask ourselves, what are we doing? 50 years ago, we didn't eat the way that we eat now. And there are plenty of, movies out there and documentaries and such that you can get more information on this kind of harmful things that are going. So I want to be careful not to sound like I'm being too slanderous, but, I think we really have to stop and kind of ask ourselves, what are we putting into our mouths? That fork, right? That fork that we're eating foods with. We need to be mindful.
I agree. Yeah, we have to be open-minded and not just, it's so commercialized these days, I mean, that's the reason why wheat got genetically modified, right? There was a famine at some point, so they changed things, and then they just keep
Yep.
changing things, right? So that
Right.
they could produce enough to sustain everybody, but we're not really at that stage still, but it's just been such a process that people don't realize how processed things are, even though they seem like it is just, just buying whole wheat flour. But it's not just whole wheat flour, it's the toxins and the pesticides and chemicals and things, So
And how they store it in stainless steel bins where mold and condensation comes in. So, it is one thing after another after another. And, I just recommend kind of easy peasy stuff like fruits, vegetables, proteins.
Organics, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you can't afford it, that's the other thing too, is that it's really costly. Then you have to do your best to get fruits that aren't going to be pesticide laden or
Right.
wash them. There are ways around, there's always ways around things. It just takes a little bit extra time. And I know folks, really are scrambling now for time, but it's so worth it because you're going to pay somewhere,
I agree, and that's kind of why I got myself into the whole nutrition and wellness type coaching, right? Is because working with you and a few other people, right, had just realized that my body was, it was like napalm went off and I was in such pain, and there had to be a reason why. So I started just doing my own investigation of, okay, let's just journal about this. And there's some great, books, or you just take a piece of paper and write down, okay, what did I eat? And how has that affected me? Because it can take 72 hours for that gluten that you had for you
Right.
to start the signs of it. People just don't realize the effects of food and how long it takes to, work its way through your body.
Right.
And everybody is so unique, and everybody, processes things differently and has different effects. So, that's
Sure.
kind of what drove my passion to try to help people, because I saw the difference in changing my diet and my lifestyle, that I just don't want to see other people suffer, because
Yeah.
it's a shame.
And start slowly. Listen, that you can just start with one thing, gluten.
Absolutely. Yep. Gluten, sugar, I would say, is pretty high up there too, right? Because that's in everything. And we've got type 2 diabetes, and everybody almost has insulin resistance, and then those things lead into cancers, right? So
yeah,
but it is a slow process, and that's what I have learned through some of the stuff that I've been doing with coaching people. It's not a one and done, right? And one does not affect everybody the same. It is a slow process to just change your habits, right? Do that 1% each day.
Yeah.
So definitely good advice on that side of things, for sure. So I know that we kind of slotted about a half an hour, and you're super busy with things going on. So I'm trying to share with the community, what's been, just educate people on the alternatives to medicine. It's not just, so it's so great. And I appreciate all that you're doing to help so many people that are suffering with various different issues, because it is a non-invasive type process. It is so informative with the reports that you provide, and it's just amazing, right? I feel like a human again. I feel even more vibrant than I did before I started,
Well, you look great, I have to say. Listen, it is the best decision, energetic medicine. It was a nice, but it just felt right more than you can possibly imagine. And it's going through, you're going to get both hats of it. And that's why we speak regularly, because I don't want people out there on their own. I've experienced that. My son has experienced that. It's no way to live. And, I want to make clear, and you and I have talked about that, there is a place and time for conventional medicine and allopathy. I'm not here to say that there's anything wrong with it inherently. There isn't. It's just, this is a bridge. This is just another way to get your needs met safely. It just works.
Great. So if people want to find you, Sheila, what's the best way?
So I'm on the World Wide Web, SheilaRing.com. Everybody to go read up. There's a ton of information there. Easiest to start on the initial visit page to kind of check out, and always can leave me a phone message, get back to you.
Awesome. And if anybody's interested in holistic nutrition and wellness coaching, they can find me on Limitless Ladies Network. I'm actually on the directory of some as well, or they can email at thrive@limitlessladiesnetwork.com. but please go out to the website, get some information. There's some free resources. I highly encourage you to also sign up. It's a free account, and you'll get more information, webinars, and possible workshops that we're going to be doing in the future. And again, I appreciate your time, Sheila, for coming out. And content is provided for general information purposes only and is not advice nor intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice. Do not use this information for diagnosing or treating any medical health conditions, and seek treatment for any specific diseases or ailments that you should have with a qualified physician only for content that we've discussed today. So hope everyone enjoyed this episode, and
thank you.
Thanks.